You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. If you'd like to learn more about the Bearded Theologians, you can go online at beardedtheologians.com, where we have past podcasts, blogs, and a couple items for sale. So check us out, beardedtheologians.com. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this week's show. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold.
So this week on the podcast, with us being in the middle of Holy Week, and one of the things that we have happen on Easter and sometimes following Easter is we have some guests that show up, and even people that haven't been around in a while. And hospitality in those moments is extremely important. And so, Zach, as you think about Easter and hospitality, what are some things that come to mind for you?
Certainly. We talk about hospitality a lot on this podcast because it's such an important topic to circle back to often during the year, especially around Christmas and Easter, because we see a bulk of folks just come, whether they're visiting with family or they're visiting the church or checking it out, or I think in the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of people who have been online folks come and join us through these seasons. And so just remembering how to welcome and greet and send people out is super important, especially when it comes around to Easter, because there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on. We celebrate Easter well, leading up through really all of Lent and Holy Week into Easter Sunday. And I think for me, we were talking about this before we hit record. I try to keep Easter as consistent to a regular Sunday as possible. We have some extra things in music and fanfare, of course, but the order of worship, how we kind of let things flow, I try to keep that super consistent for the following, especially for the following week. Because if we have visitors, part of hospitality for me is not having that letdown week to week, or the inconsistency week to week of, well, I came this Sunday and well, now this Sunday's completely different, and then this Sunday's completely different. So for me, a big part of hospitality, outside of the obvious of making sure people are seen and welcome, is to make sure people feel comfortable and feel like when they walk in the door, whether it's their first time or their 100th time, that they're comfortable walking in the space. And there's a lot that goes into that, from parking lot and our digital spaces into the sanctuary and homes. So that was kind of a non-answer to your question, but we'll get into it, I'm sure.
Well, I always think that there are I don't know what to call them, but like things you don't do. And I always try to educate congregations on this, is that one of the things you don't do, and please don't do this, is don't crack the joke. Hey, it's been a long time since we've seen you here.
Yes.
Nothing turns people off more than that. I'm not gonna lie. That is like one of the worst things you could ever do. And I think that we think we're being good, and we think we're being nice, or think we're being funny, and really you're not. You're potentially like being so off-putting that they may not come back.
Yeah, it's shame and guilt, right?
And it's also one of those things that, like, let's be real. If we were doing our job, we would know where they're at, and that goes for everybody. That's not, like, I think one of the things we forget about hospitality and evangelism and all that stuff is that it's on everybody. We agree to support one another through our baptism, and failure to do that is not just on one person or a committee. It's on each and every one of the members of the church. And I think that that's important. I don't know. I get real protective of that because I just find it to be one of the most off-putting things that churches do, and try to get my congregations not to do that. So, like, I think that's really a big thing. The other thing is making sure that, and I try to do this every Sunday, although in a new appointment, I'm still learning. Think of it like, before you board the airplane, they orient you and they tell you where things are and things like that. Like, that's something you should do. You should have some kind of orientation into things. Whether, one of the best ways that I do that is I put it in the bulletin, just that way it's there for people to know. both insiders and outsiders, but those that are our guests, sometimes we can't go, we can't go through everything in the service, but like, have a little symbol that says stand if you are able, or stuff like that. Like that little stuff makes a world of difference, because people are reading that stuff, people are looking at that stuff, especially if they're new, if they're guests. They can, it'll be a good way to orient them and to make them feel comfortable when you do something awkward like stand for the doxology. Because I don't know about you, but it seems like in every church I've ever been in, standing for the doxology is the one thing we never say, will you please rise? It just, you start hearing the doxology,
we give it one of these.
you just stand. I mean, and so like I think having those things of acknowledgement is key. It's also the same thing with giving. I think one of the things that we forget about giving is making it, being hospitable, even, and asking and making that ask for giving, letting them know how to give. There, in my congregation, there are 3 ways to give. You can give, you can mail us an offering, you can put it in the offering plate, or you can donate online by scanning the QR code. And I think that orientation and direction, both spoken and unspoken, are very vital to providing excellent hospitality for people to kind of feel comfortable being in your congregation. The other thing is online, having, gosh darn it, acknowledge their presence.
Yes.
If you're going to do anything, just acknowledge their presence. Thank them for being there. I can't say, about a week ago, I started watching, I kind of was doing some like research and stuff to kind of see what was being done online, and watched about 9 different churches. And out of those 9 different churches, about only 2 of them ever acknowledged the online worshiper. That is a sphere that we have to acknowledge and have to provide some kind of hospitality to. I don't have all the answers for it. There's some work I want to do and some things that need to be done. But just have some simple form of engagement for them to feel like they're part of us. And that's very key to everything that you do.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about hospitality and how we offer up giving. Giving is often a sore spot for folks, right? I don't know about you. I hear that a lot of, well, we don't go to church anymore because it became all about money, right? And giving more and doing this, right? And I think Easter is a great time to break some of that down and do some teaching behind it. If not just Easter every Sunday, right? But Easter is a good time. One of the ways that we approach it here is I talk about all of the things that we put in the plate, seen and unseen, through our prayers, presence, gifts, service, and witness. And so giving is more than just financial giving. It's all of the things that we have to offer. And I'm super intentional about that because not everybody has cash in their pocket to offer. But prayer, showing up, giving of our time and energy, going out into the world and sharing God's love and grace, all gifts that we all have to offer as well. And yeah, our online folks can't, any Sunday, but especially Easter, can't be an afterthought, because we're getting people near and far, right? We're getting people who may be normal or regular folks in our sanctuary, but maybe they're off visiting their grandkids or their kids, or they're somewhere else, but they're engaging with us online. Or we have brand new folks that are online only, or longtime online only folks. I think I love what you're getting at, and it's the intentionality of seeing and hearing and feeling the presence of the folks who are there in person and online, and that's huge. Especially when we look into the hospitality of Easter and the stories that we tell and the hope that we're trying to bring on this particular Sunday. It's easy to get wrapped up in the details and I have thoughts on the idea that this is a Super Bowl Sunday. I don't necessarily agree with that. It's a big Sunday, yes, but it's just as important as any of the other Sundays that we do, as we welcome people in, as we make space for folks in all the ways that we do. And I think when we begin to treat it as that, we do a better job of seeing and hearing and being present with the folks wherever they may be.
Well, and I think that that's key. It's yes, it's a big Sunday, but it's not. We can't. You're comparing apples to oranges when you say it's a Super Bowl Sunday, because every Sunday is Easter.
Right.
There's a whole hymn about it. But if you take that intentionality every Sunday, it ups your church's game. And
Absolutely.
Every Sunday is a special Sunday, and
Right.
one of the hardest Sundays is the Sunday after Easter. And I would encourage you, granted, hopefully the ship has sailed, but if you haven't planned yet for the Sunday after Easter, make it a fun, special Sunday where something special happens, where it is something you have to come back to. I know last year for us, it was we had our debt burning and confirmation Sunday. What a better Sunday to have after the Sunday after Easter. And or do something special. Do something where maybe if you have a guest speaker, make it be a good guest speaker and make everything around it be an amazing experience. Like, don't let the letdown of Easter trickle into worship. Continue that energy and what you'll find is, if you do that, then every Sunday becomes just as important, and you work on those things. And I think that that's something key to what you should offer every Sunday, not just one or two particular Sundays of a year.
And maybe that's the central conversation around hospitality, right? Why, if we're only focusing on having good hospitality on Easter and Christmas Eve, maybe Mother's Day, and maybe another Sunday here and there throughout the year, right? We make the other 48 or so Sundays out of the year pretty lackluster, if we only focus on just a couple in the ways that we're intentional about hospitality. And so let Easter be a jumping off point of how you move forward in the hospitality that you bring people in person and online and everywhere in between, and keep it going. How do you build on that for the next Sunday and the next Sunday, especially as we're heading into summer, which gets crazy weird with all of our schedules and the ebbs and flows of the church and community. And it's easy to back off on that stuff. But if we hold that through and keep building, what does now the Christmas Eve look like in terms of hospitality? And then how do we continue to build on it from there?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to land today. Encourage you to, as you welcome guests in, remember that, it's a great opportunity to show how good your church is. But also understand that, like, if you mess up, it's hard to get them back. And so, have that high expectation. I think that's healthy for that. And so, encourage you to listen to us on whatever podcast platform you listen to. You can find a lot of our stuff, 60 hours worth of great material. If you want to find out more about us, you can go to beardedtheologians.com. So for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
Guys, I want you to subscribe and like this video and push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.